What if instead of trying to make yourself smaller for the people who label you too much, you just tell them to go find less? The motivation and passion you've been longing for have finally arrived, along with a healthy dose of the courage to stand up, set boundaries, and finally say what you mean. This Aries season and spring equinox have marked the beginning of the astrological new year, and they're the much welcomed and much needed jolt to get us up and moving after the sleepy, heavy, and cold energy of late winter. So stand up, y'all, take a big stretch and get ready because this week in astrology is like a cosmic ignition switch. What is up, my witches? Welcome to the Queer Soul Alchemy podcast, a supportive community helping queer folks to embrace their authentic selves by exploring yoga, astrology, and spirituality. I'm your host, Lee Davey. What is up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm your host and favorite queer NB priestess, Lee Davey, your humble soul shepherd, your inner alchemy doula, your dad on vacation if your dad was an astrology gay. And no, I will not explain what I mean by that. On today's episode, we're diving into Aries season, the magic of the Libra Full Moon, and the deeper spiritual meaning of the Spring Equinox, and how this axis of fire and air teaches us the sacred balance between self and relationships. But first, new episodes of this podcast drop every Wednesday, posted on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Wherever you're listening from, please help me stay sane and feel like I'm not just screaming into the vast and lawless black hole of the internet by leaving me a like, a comment, and a nice little 5-star review. And make sure you subscribe, honey, so that we can help other queer seekers find this magic. Don't miss out on exclusive access to my free self-care resource guide, which I've specifically curated for you to support your journey with spirituality. To download this guide and be the first to know about upcoming queer yoga retreats and events, please sign up for our email newsletter at youareloved.one/pod. And what do you guys want to hear about next? You can message me anytime at that same link on our website, which will also always be linked in the show notes. And tell me your story for a chance to be featured on the podcast. Because your story matters, and sharing our stories makes us strong queer community, stronger together. Today, I wanted to share a few comments from our extended international community. This is from @Cersei on YouTube. Gosh, this makes me happy to see happening, and it's so amazing and strange that this video found me. I'm a Black trans man and I live in Scotland and was born here, but my dad is from Cleveland, Ohio, and I wonder how much something like this would have made a positive impact on his life. Thank you. I can't wait to visit someday when this place is up and running. Like, I always thought I'd never feel safe to go back to Ohio now that I'm trans, but maybe when this place is running, I can. Thanks for making a space for me. Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing. Yes, of course. That's exactly the point. Another comment from somebody on YouTube called Spark. Lovely video as usual. The story behind this community is heartwarming. I hope one day I gain enough money to support you through the online community membership. And in parentheses, right now I can't afford it though because dollars are very expensive in my country, Argentina. I have a question though. What's the minimum amount one can donate to your cause? Because it would be easier for me to donate $1 per week than $11 per month at the time being. Anyway, I hope you have a great day and thanks for lighting up the world with your YouTube presence. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it makes me so happy that our community is spreading, you guys. Scotland and Argentina. We have listeners that are really all around the world. And this is why we're both an in-person and an online community, right? People can contribute and join our online community from anywhere in the world. And to answer your question about what is the minimum amount to donate? There's no minimum amount. You can absolutely contribute $1, any amount that anyone anywhere in the world is able to contribute. We are really grateful for. And most of all, we're just really grateful for you for being in our community. So thank you so much for being here. All right, you guys, let's continue on to today's main astrology segment. Is Mercury in the microwave again? Yes, you guys, Mercury is direct once again. So Mercury is in fact not in the microwave. It just got done. It's just coming out of the microwave. It went direct the same day as Spring Equinox and Aries season started, which was March 20th. So if you've recently felt a big shift in forward moving energy, your intuition and, as always, your body are spot on, you guys. And actually, all of the planets are currently moving direct. So this energy of moving forward happening in more ways than one. And we're currently in a powerful seasonal shift that kicks off what many pagans and astrologers refer to as the true start of the new year, or the astrological new year. The spring equinox specifically marks equal lengths of daytime and darkness as the sun becomes exalted in the cardinal fire sign of Aries this time of year. And the days get longer from here. So next week brings a Libra full moon, which also illuminates the relationship axis. So we'll get to that. This transit is all about endings, giving way to forceful new beginnings. It's about identifying boundaries around identity and exploring the balance of independence and reciprocity or interdependence. So let's break it down. Aries season started March 20th, and it is the season of courage, anger, passion, and the art of claiming your fire. So Aries season will run through April 19th. And Aries represents the archetype of the warrior. It's ruled by the planet Mars, which is the planet of drive, aggression, passion, and personal will. Mars being a god of war, right? And in astrology, Aries is the first spark. It's the first sign on the zodiac wheel, kicking off the astrological new year alongside the spring equinox. They're often on the same day. Aries energy does not wait for permission. It initiates, it acts, it moves. And as the first sign of the zodiac, Aries energy is all about beginnings. So this cardinal fire sign is bold, impulsive, fiercely independent, often trailblazing before anyone else realizes there is even a path to take. Mars gives Aries its courage and clarity, and there's really something refreshing about Aries energy. It says what it means, it doesn't dance around the truth. Aries would actually rather risk conflict than swallow its own fire. And quite often, Aries moves too quickly to pause and consider others. But that's kind of the point, right? So, at its highest vibration, Aries is this energy of leadership, initiation, boldness, confidence, creative ignition. It's that friend that's like, come on, just do it. Just do the thing. Just start. It's the sacred rebellion of existing unapologetically in a world that's told you to shrink. And in queer spirituality, Aries energy is sacred, holy even. Rebellion, the audacity to take up space visibly and unapologetically, and to require that, you're loved and accepted for exactly who you are. But while this cardinal fire burns bright, it also has a tendency to rush and sometimes burn itself out. At a lower vibration, Aries intensity can become reactivity, impatience, or unnecessary aggression. And when passion is repressed, it turns itself inward and becomes shame. When power is denied, that passion, that energy, that power, right, it can erupt sideways. For me, it's been helpful to think of anger and passion as two sides of the same coin. An Aries type of relationship is the relationship that starts out hot, heavy, and lustful, that ends in screaming fights and toxicity. If you have your Venus or your Mars in Aries, verbal or even physical sparring might feel like foreplay to you. That hot makeup sex right after a fight. So Aries coded, you guys. Somebody feels called out right now, but I only know that because as a Scorpio rising, I personally have been attracted to that type of relationship dynamic. So absolutely no judgment. Now, unfortunately, many LGBTQ plus people learned early on in life that their bold authenticity was too much, too loud, embarrassing, too direct, don't shove it down my throat, too passionate, just be quiet, be small. And Aries is the archetype of the self. fearlessly barreling ahead with confidence and a refreshing lack of need for validation from others. This energy can give us a much needed dose of sense of self, but the archetype of Aries teaches us about the raw power of fire and the importance of keeping that power balanced by handling it with care. The real lesson of Aries isn't in suppressing the anger. It's learning to channel that powerful energy behind the emotion into a healthy outlet, right? So, physical exercise and disciplines like martial arts, yoga, primal animal movements, these are all great examples of directing that energy in a healthy way. And healthy, balanced fire protects boundaries while fueling creativity and initiating necessary change by being healthfully confrontational. There's a point where it's important that willingness to take action is required. Meanwhile, unconscious or suppressed fire energy can manifest as resentment or passive aggression, which scorches relationships and burns bridges before we've decided if we actually even wanted them gone. Can anyone else relate? Again, I'm not judging, I've been here myself. If Aries is your sun sign, your identity revolves around independence, action, the need to assert yourself boldly in the world, and you likely have a lot of physical energy. If Aries is your moon sign, your emotions move quickly. You might feel strongly, but you also might try to skip over the processing phase and just move on to the next thing. And you also need autonomy to feel secure. You may also have a lot of physical and or emotional energy. If Aries is your rising sign, others experience you as direct, confident, and sometimes intimidating. And you may have even been told that you come across as harsh or insensitive. All right, you guys, let's reflect a little bit on this Aries energy. Don't worry, I'll repeat these journaling prompts at the end of the episode when we get to this episode's ritual challenge. First question is, where is Aries in your chart? Which house? And then, do you have planets in Aries? These will be highlighted during Aries season. Where is your inner fire being suppressed? And are there ways in which you are holding yourself back from your own spark? And do you feel like you need more or less fire energy to come into a healthy balance? Aries energy teaches us that beginnings require courage and desire is not forbidden. You are allowed to take up space. All right, y'all, moving on to the Libra full moon. This full moon in Libra, coming up on Wednesday, April 1st, illuminates the relationship axis, which is the tension between self and other. Libra is the sign of relationships, and the energy craves harmony, fairness, diplomacy, collaboration, sometimes to such an extent that it can lose itself and lose boundaries between where self ends and another begins. And this is where the idea of opposites attract can allow these two complementary energies, Aries and Libra, to learn from each other. Because as sister signs, they are both approaching the theme of identity, but from opposite sides or opposite perspectives. Where the shadow side of Aries may not be sensitive to the needs or feelings of others, the shadow side of Libra is using relationships to define personal identity or even unconsciously abandoning self in order to prioritize others. But we humans have very natural and valid needs, right? Even if we learned to self abandon. And this unconscious suppression of personal needs can only last so long. It's not sustainable. It can only last so long before that energy starts to come out sideways, come out a little weird, right? Manifesting itself as resentment or passive aggressiveness within a relationship or jealousy, bitterness. And this approach is kind of like expecting someone else to notice that we're quietly poisoning ourselves, like just sitting over here stewing in resentment and negative emotions and never actually speaking up or saying anything about it. It's kind of unfair to the other party in the relationship because we're not giving them that opportunity to step up. And it's unfair to ourselves, of course, because we're not holding our needs as being equally important to the other party's needs. Therefore, harmony without honesty equals emotional suppression, maybe in prettier packaging. And maybe we've avoided external conflict, but in the process, we've created internal conflict, whether we're conscious of it or not. Libra's highest vibration is justice, diplomacy, and cooperation, but its lowest vibration is people pleasing, which is a backdoor manipulation tactic. Again, we may not be conscious that we're doing this, so I'm not demonizing this. It's fun response, right? People pleasing is a very common defense mechanism. So it's a backdoor manipulation tactic because we might not even be conscious that we're manipulating. And it serves as one hell of a great defense mechanism, right? Like it does its job. It's also one hell of a sneaky method to self-harm by subtly ignoring our own needs and then trying to outsource responsibility for our needs not being met, which results in codependency, right? A lot of self-abandonment, a lot of self-neglect, and ultimately that's just going to keep that wound running in the background. I think as queer people, we can really relate. Like this lesson runs deep in queer life because so many of us, myself included, have learned that we need to soften or perform in some way to stay safe, quiet ourselves, be agreeable, keep the peace, not speak up about how we truly feel. And I myself spent years playing small, you guys, and feeling the need to hide my true self, make myself more palatable to others just for that acceptance, that belonging, that love. I'm sure some people still feel this way, but not as much anymore. But it used to very much be a thing that a masculine lesbian would only date feminine lesbians, and feminine lesbians would only date masculine lesbians as a way to actually kind of conform into heteronormative dominant culture, right? Because it's like, oh, this is a lesbian relationship, but she's the man and I'm the woman. So it's still conforming to this heterosexual dominant culture and ideal for the sake of safety, right? It serves a function, it serves a purpose, but it's still not authentic expression. So that's just one example. There's so many examples of ways that queer folks have kind of forced themselves into these boxes just for the sake of safety. So I just feel like this Aries Libra axis is one that queer people especially relate to. I spent years playing small and just trying to make myself palatable and like truly hide myself. And it was to such an extent that I didn't even realize who I was. I turned 30 this summer, you guys. I feel like I only started actually realizing my identity like within the past year. And maybe when I was hiding, I was slightly more accepted by others, but the version of me that they were accepting wasn't authentically me. So that performance only ruined my mental health, right? And that's just an example that true harmony isn't passive. Because now I have friends in my life who truly do accept me and understand me, and it's not based on identity or appearance or doing some kind of feminine performance or whatever performance would make them comfortable in whatever box that they would like to put me in. So true harmony is not passive. It can't be passive. It is courageous. It requires radical honesty paired with respectful communication. And the growth edge here is learning that advocating for yourself doesn't destroy real love. It strengthens real love. And the people that don't authentically love the real you, they're going to fall away because they weren't loving you. They were loving whatever that performance was that you were putting on that maybe made them comfortable or benefited them in some way. But the good news is that it if those relationships fall away, it creates room for new relationships to come in that are aligned and with people that really accept and love you authentically for who you actually are, right? It creates intimacy with those people, which is what we want. Yeah. I also want to mention that when we finally find our voice after years of swallowing it, it's understandable that we might swing hard into the opposite direction, where anger starts spilling outward because we're no longer just silently directing it inward. And I think it's important to acknowledge that anger itself is actually considered a secondary emotion, which means often it masks another deeper emotion like anger, covering up fear that comes from being vulnerable because it's safer to be angry than vulnerable, right? or anger covering sadness or grief, which are such valid emotions that want to be seen and felt, right? And Libra is a sign of balance. So this Libra full moon invites adjustment, not perfection, because balance is dynamic. You're allowed to be both kind and clear, soft and strong. And full moons, you guys, they shine the light of consciousness onto the areas of your chart that they rule. So this lunation may be bringing you opportunities to notice where you've compromised yourself for approval, partnership, or peace, especially in the areas of your chart that it's activating, right? So here's some more reflection prompts. And again, I will repeat these when we get to the ritual challenge at the end of the episode. Where is Libra in your chart? Which house? And do you have planets in Libra? So all of this will be highlighted during this full moon in Libra, this upcoming lunation. And are you honoring your needs in your relationships, or are you self-abandoning to keep the peace? So far, we've learned that too much Aries energy strains relationships and can burn bridges, but too much Libra energy ignores the self's needs and therefore strains the relationship's potential for true connection. The key, as with most things, lies within the balance. And that's what this Libra full moon is teaching us. Spring Equinox was on March 20th, and it marked an equal balance of light and night, a moment of environmental equilibrium here in the Northern Hemisphere before we tilt toward longer days. So that means if you're listening from the Southern Hemisphere, you probably just had your fall equinox and you're heading toward shorter days. Meanwhile, the Aries Libra axis represents a necessary equal balance at the heart of all relationships, including the one that you have with yourself. When I teach about Anahata chakra, or the heart chakra in yoga, I always make a point to mention that all of our chakras, our energy centers, are designed to both give and receive. These are like energetic portals within our subtle body. They're meant to be able to put out energy as well as bring in energy. So the heart chakra, of course, is meant to be that portal. And the heart is also connected with the lungs, which must empty out their previous breath in order to make space to take in a new breath. So the breath itself is a wonderful metaphor for non-attachment. The heart is also energetically and physically, right, connected to the hands, which can only be open to receive if we first set down what we were carrying before. So, like all of these examples, the heart chakra must both give and receive love freely to be its most balanced and most healthy. But through the difficulties of life and the illusion that we're separate from each other, it's so common for the energy to just get stuck flowing one direction. And I'm sure many listeners to this podcast can resonate with having a hard time, especially receiving love energy freely. I know I can definitely feel a little uncomfortable. It's vulnerable to be on the receiving end of love if you identify as a giver, a lover, a fixer. So where Aries says, I am, I want, I need, Libra says, we are, we want, we need. Neither is wrong. The growth is, as always, in the balance. Aries says, I want. Libra says, what's fair? Aries says, this is who I am. Libra says, okay, how do we move forward together? This astrological axis teaches us that self-reliance and partnership are not opposites, but if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, patient, and humble, then they can probably learn from and even strengthen each other. When we practice a yoga balance pose like Vrikshasana, which is tree pose, the key to that balance is not forcing or rigid stillness. In fact, if you hold too still, you'll probably fall over. Keeping the balance is a process of constant micro adjustments of all the tiny little stabilizer muscles in the feet, the toes, the ankles, and it's also very important in every single yoga pose to breathe. So allow this week between the spring equinox and all the planets finally moving direct once again, the start of Aries season, and this luscious, beautiful Libra full moon to shine the light on where you may need to make some tiny little micro adjustments in your life. Reflect. Can you advocate for yourself without abandoning connection? Can you choose a relationship without betraying your personal fire? Again, check out where Aries is in your chart and where it is Libra and which houses they represent. And you can also just reflect as you journal, like, how do you see this energy showing up in your personal life? Even if you don't know your chart, just that simple reflection can be very powerful. This spring equinox reminds us that growth requires both assertion and harmony. And true harmony requires radical honesty, direct yet respectful communication, and energetic reciprocity. This episode's ritual challenge for the Libra full moon is called Light and Mirror. So on the night of the Libra full moon, which again is Wednesday, April 1st at 10:11 p.m. Eastern Time, light a candle to represent the Aries season fire and put a mirror in front of your candle, or put your candle in front of a mirror, right, to represent Libra's reflection. And then do some eye gazing with your reflection. So you can gaze into your own eyes for just a few moments, and then you can gaze into the candle's flame in the mirror. You can add in your own meditation practice here, or you can continue this open-eyed meditation, doing eye gazing with yourself, or flame gazing at the reflection of the flame. If you didn't write down those journaling prompts before, go ahead and pause the episode now so that you can run and grab your journal and copy down these journal prompts. Okay, so the first journal prompt is, where is Aries in your chart? Which house does it rule, and are there any planets in that house? Is your inner fire being suppressed? Are there ways in which you are holding yourself back from your own spark? Where is Libra in your chart? Which house and which planets? Are you honoring your needs in your relationships, or are you self-abandoning to keep the peace? Do you think you need more or less fire energy to come into balance? How do you see this energy showing up in your personal life? And can you advocate for yourself without abandoning connections? All right, you guys. So after you have spent some time meditating with your mirror and your candle, and then spend some time journaling on these reflection prompts, you can close the ritual with a mantra or a song of your choice. And then just blow out the candle with a simple intention to direct that fire inward in a healthy way. If you give this ritual a try, please share about it in the comments. I'd absolutely love to hear how your experience goes. To summarize, on this episode, we explored the astrological archetype of the sun in Aries, giving you the courage and motivation to claim your fire after winter. We unpacked the Libra full moon, shedding light on the necessity of self-aware communication and boundaries in sacred relationships. And we honored the spring equinox, which is like nature reminding us to keep a healthy balance of self-care and giving to others in order to strengthen our relationships. If you are new to astrology, or you've never looked at your chart before, or you have looked and want to dive deeper, please book an astrology reading with me at www.yourloved.one/readings. And I would love to go over your whole chart with you so that when I'm telling you, look here to see which house and which sign rules which part, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? And if you want to really nerd out and learn how to read your own natal chart and potentially other people's natal chart, there is a pretty awesome 2-hour astrology workshop available through the website and through our online platform. So in that workshop, we do a deep dive on every single sign of the zodiac, all 12 signs. The elements and modalities and the houses are explained, and also the significance of the planets. So this is a really great intro for anyone who's just generally curious about understanding astrology better. Join our online community platform for access to that astrology workshop, as well as 5 additional workshops. You guys, such an amazing deal. And you get to connect with an online community of like-minded queer spiritual seekers, and y'all better get your cute little butts inside the community ASAP, because our first online community meditation is this Thursday at noon EST. in honor of Aries season, you guys. So, new zodiac themed yoga and meditation videos will be posted on the platform monthly throughout the year. And it's only $11 per month, you guys. Such a deal because we want you. Come on in. Come on in. Welcome to our community. So, as always, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, let's stay connected and stay witchy. I'll talk to you soon and blessed be. With all my love, Lee Davy.